I remember waiting. I remember thinking that if nothing was happening, then nothing would ever happen. I remember checking my phone, checking my email, checking the calendar, checking for signs, checking for answers, checking to see if life had finally decided it was our turn. And I remember how tired that made us because waiting isn't just waiting. Waiting is wondering. Waiting is asking yourself questions that nobody else can answer. Like, did I miss my chance? Did I make the wrong decision? Did I wait too long? Am I behind? Did everybody else figure something else out that I didn't? I know those questions. I asked them too. And if I could sit across from you right now, I'd want to tell you something I didn't understand back then. The waiting isn't a punishment. I know it feels like it. I know it feels like life picked everyone else first. I know it feels like you're standing in the longest line while people who showed up after you somehow keep getting their name called ahead of you. I know. I remember watching people fall in love while we were lonely. I remember watching people buy houses while we wondered if we'd ever feel settled. I remember watching people get the job, have the baby, take the trip, build the life. And I remember smiling for them. I was happy for them, mostly, but there was always this little voice, the one you don't like admitting is there, the one that whispered, but what about us? When is it our turn? And I need you to know something. That question never made you selfish. It made you human. You weren't asking to have more than everyone else. You were asking if there was enough left for you. I remember that fear. I remember wondering if maybe life had simply forgotten us. Not in some crazy dramatic way, but just quietly, like our name got skipped somehow. Like maybe we missed an email, you know? Like maybe we took the wrong road. Maybe we waited too long. Maybe we ruined our chance without realizing it. I know. I thought all of that too. But I remember something else. I remember what actually happened. And the strange thing is, I couldn't see it while I was living it. The waiting wasn't empty. The waiting was busy. You just couldn't see the work. Think about a house. Nobody drives past an empty lot and says, wow, what a beautiful foundation. No, none of us do that. People notice the walls, the windows, the lights, the finished kitchen. Nobody gets excited about the part underground. But the part underground decides whether the whole thing stays standing. It's the foundation. And I didn't know it then, but what this season was foundation work, quiet work, the kind that nobody claps for, the kind that doesn't make good social media posts, the kind that makes you wonder if anything is happening at all. Meanwhile, life was teaching us patience. It was teaching us boundaries. It was teaching us to stop chasing people who didn't choose us. It was teaching us to trust our own voice. It was teaching us to survive disappointment. It was teaching us that we could have a hard day and still wake up tomorrow. But those lessons didn't feel exciting. And honestly, some of them felt really unfair. I remember saying, could we just skip this part? I really did. I remember wanting the blessing without the waiting, the answer without the question, the sunrise without the long dark night. But that is not how our story worked. And one day I understood why. There were things we wanted that we weren't ready to hold yet. Not because we weren't good enough, not because we hadn't earned them, because we were still becoming the person who could receive them without losing ourselves. And there's a difference. I wish someone had said, just because hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Because that's the trick that waiting plays on you. It makes invisible things feel impossible. You can't see the healing. Not really. You can't see courage growing. You can't see wisdom arriving. You can't see yourself becoming stronger. You usually don't notice till one day when something happens and you react differently. Someone disappoints you and you don't chase them. Something goes wrong and you don't panic the way you used to. Someone misunderstands you and you don't spend 3 days trying to fix it. A door closes, and instead of begging it to open, you quietly walk away. Those little moments, I remember them. I remember realizing we're changing. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe nothing big has happened. Maybe you're still waiting for the call, the answer, the relationship, the opportunity, the healing, or the dream. Maybe you're sitting there wondering if this season means you've been forgotten. I need you to borrow my memory for just a minute because I remember this chapter. I remember thinking, we're stuck. But we weren't stuck. We were growing roots. And I know roots are frustrating. You can't see them, you can't measure them, you can't show them to anybody. But trees don't apologize for growing roots before they grow branches. And neither should you. There were nights I thought nothing was changing. Then I looked back a year later and realized almost everything had changed. The people around me, the way I thought, the things I tolerated, the things I dreamed about, the way I talked to myself, the things I finally stopped carrying. The waiting had changed me. The waiting had changed us. Quietly, patiently, and kindly. I know that isn't the answer you wanted. I know you probably wanted me to tell you exactly when everything works out. And I can't do that. And honestly, I wouldn't do that. Because I remember something else. I remember how important this version of you became. The one who's waiting, the one who's learning, the one who's scared, the one who's trying to trust life while secretly wondering if trusting is a mistake. I love this version of us. I know you don't always. I know you think you're too emotional, you're too tired, you're too uncertain, you're too late. But I know something that you don't. This version of you is building a life the old version couldn't have imagined. Not because they're fearless, but because they keep going while they're afraid. That matters more than you know. So, if you can, stop measuring this season by what hasn't arrived. Measure it by what you've survived. Look at what you've carried. Look at what you've learned. Look at the conversations you finally had. Look at the boundaries that you finally kept. Look at the mornings you got out of bed when you didn't want to. Look at the hope you somehow protected, even after disappointment, even after delay, even after things didn't happen the way you planned. That hope says something about you. It says that you haven't given up. And I'm so glad that you haven't. Because I remember what comes after this. Not every detail, not every surprise, not every twist in the story. But I remember one feeling, and it's relief. I remember taking a deep breath one day and realizing we were never being punished. We were being prepared, prepared to love differently, prepared to choose differently, prepared to trust ourselves, prepared to stop settling, prepared to receive good things without constantly waiting for them to disappear. I remember that feeling, and I wanted to come back and tell you about it right now. Not because I want to rush you, not because I want to fix you or fix anything, just because I remember how lonely waiting can feel. And I didn't want you sitting here tonight thinking nobody understood. I understand. I've been here. I've cried over this. I've questioned everything too. I've looked out the window and wondered if life forgot our address. And it didn't. I promise it didn't. So maybe tonight, don't ask, when is it my turn? Maybe ask something better. What is this season trying to grow in me? Don't ask, why is everyone ahead of me? But ask, what if I'm exactly where I need to be? Don't ask, what if nothing happens? But ask, what if more is happening than I can see? You don't have to believe everything completely. Just leave the door open. Leave a little room for hope. Leave a little room for surprise. Leave a little room for the idea that this quiet season is not the end of your story. Because it's not the end of our story. And I remember that too. And before I go, I want to tell you one last thing. The waiting isn't punishment. It never was. The waiting is a waiting room, if you will. A quiet room, a hard room, a lonely room sometimes. But it's also the room where you become the person you've been looking for. So be gentle with yourself. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're not being skipped. You are growing roots. And I know roots can feel invisible, but I also remember the tree. And I promise it's worth the wait. Until next time, stay magnetic, friends.